What's up, everybody, and welcome to Reynolds Coliseum in Raleigh, North Carolina, on the campus, of course, of North Carolina State University for some college gymnastics here on ESPN3. Darren Vaught, Rachel Garland with you. Rachel, we look forward to your insight today, former Eagle gymnast herself, as North Carolina State coming off of perhaps its biggest week of the season. At least that was the case in terms of their scoring.
Yeah, last week was absolutely phenomenal. They scored only 0.2 below the number 6 ranked team in the country. So ended up with a huge score of a 196.575, their season high so far, followed by their second season high, which was right here in Reynolds against William & Mary just a few weeks ago. So they're coming off a big one, and they can't wait to do it again.
You see the 196.575, just 0.2, as you mentioned, Rachel, below Michigan. The Wolverines were in town. And a big part of that performance was Chelsea Knight. As we've seen all season long, she's the anchor in every event for the Wolfpack. She was big in that particular meet.
Chelsea's their top dog right now. She is their anchor, like you said, on every single event. She's a 2-time Eagle Gymnast of the Week, so Conference Gymnast of the Week. 39.35 last week for a total all-around score. Not her career high. She could have done a little bit better, but still a really strong showing. Helped the Beam team to their season high of a 49.3 and helped the NC State Bar team to a season high of a 49.15 last week.
So as we get things started, it'll be the Wolfpack over on the vault, and then on the uneven bars, it is William and Mary, and you see Kim Landris there, North Carolina State head coach, who you know pretty well, Rachel, in her first season at the helm.
Yeah, Kim has done a fantastic job, and the girls have done a really good job transitioning from one coach to another. They've got actually 2 new coaches this year. The only kind of reigning coach is Bob Starkell. He's in his 6th season. So the girls have really had a lot of transition going from two coaches to 2 brand new coaches, and they've really embraced it. They've really worked on a lot of just their technique, some of their execution, which has really played a big part in their overall scores.
So North Carolina State looking for a big week to follow up their season high here at Reynolds just a week ago. As on the vault, it'll be Caitlin Fillard, Alexis Buechler, Mackenzie Itkush, Drew Grantham, Alexa Phillips, and then Chelsea Knight. Rounding that out, as we mentioned, she does for every event for the Wolfpack. And on the bars, Monica Ouellette, Erica Marr, Taylor White, Evan Pakshong, Katie Waldman, and Caroline Capone for William and Mary. And both of these teams, North Carolina State, 3 all-around competitors. William and Mary has the same in their 3. Taylor White, Caroline Capone, and Katie Waldman. So you'll see those 3 ladies in each and every event. As for the Wolfpack, you will see Caitlin Fillard, Drew Grantham, and Chelsea Knight at each and every of the 4 stops today.
Looks like Caitlin is just about ready to go, so she'll wait for the judges to salute. The nice thing about just a dual meet is we'll actually get to see every gymnast on each event. So unlike last week where every event was going at the same time with 4 teams, we'll go back and forth, so each team will both get the same amount of camera time.
And a lot of the times in that scenario, Rachel, vault is the part that gets overlooked because it happens the quickest, and then all of a sudden it's over. And
Definitely.
in a quad meet, at the same time you have some floor routine exercises and things of the like.
And a huge vault from Caitlin to start off with, just that step on the landing. So again, that's it's the last thing that a judge sees. They're really looking for good height, good distance, good dynamics overall. And then to just take that extra step on the landing, the judges on their papers are just marking an extra 10th off the bottom.
So Fillard gets things started for North Carolina State. This is Monica Ouellette on the uneven bars for William and Mary.
Yeah, and Monica was actually supposed to exhibition today. They had one of their all-arounders not able to compete. So Monica has stepped up to the plate, and instead of going in the final spot as an exhibition, she is now the leadoff person.
Quick routine, quick couple of changes. A little tough on the landing, but overall I'd say a solid start for the Tribe.
Yeah, definitely. Her career high is a 9.85. I don't know that that routine was going to get close to a 9.85, but again, a solid start, made the routine, landed it, just something for the rest of the group to build on.
And now the Wolfpack, we move on to Alexis Buechler, getting set for her vault. Buechler, a sophomore from Findlay, Ohio.
And again, great height, great distance. You can see how far away from the table she is when she actually lands. Just that small hop on the landing. That one probably only a half tenth versus a full tenth, but it's still going to add up in the end.
Just a slight shuffle backward with both feet.
Yeah, and when that vault's not worth a 10.0 anymore, you're just really adding up on those deductions.
So 2 vaulters in the books already for North Carolina State, as they'll have Mackenzie Itkush next. But Erica Marr now for William and Mary, set for her routine on the uneven bars. Marr competes in the vault, the bars, and the beam as well.
Sophomore out of Ridgefield, Connecticut.
See the first score for the vault for Fillmore for North Carolina State came in at a 9.775.
And a really strong routine right up until that landing. It looked like she just didn't have quite enough oomph to get around. You saw her chest land really low, which made her take that large step forward, probably even at least 2/10 on that bigger step.
Now Itkush for the Wolfpack. And I'm no expert, Rachel, but that looks good to me. Very impressive height on it. Maybe not quite as far out as a couple of her teammates, but a steadier landing, though, still just a slight step backward.
Definitely, just that little, like you said, a shuffle of the feet. She was really going for the stick. She had great height. She knew exactly where she was at in the air. She just opened up a little bit too soon, and it caused her to take that just little small shuffle over her feet.
So now we'll see the first appearance from one of the 3 all-around competitors for William and Mary. This is Taylor White, set to exercise on the uneven bars. So you'll see her in all 4 along with a couple more teammates, Caroline Capone rather, and Katie Waldman.
And Taylor's just a sophomore, so already in the all-around spot, so they're going to really lean on her, not only this year as they already have, but over the next 2 years as well. Some really interesting release moves there that aren't quite as common. The judges do look for 2 release moves on the bar. They can let go and catch the same bar. They can let go and catch different bars.
And she required 1 more because White here began on the lower bar, and of course you have to dismount off of the top bar. So she actually had 3 changes. Now Drew Grantham for the Wolfpack, one of their all-around gymnasts.
Career high last week of a 9.875. Her and Chelsea Knight actually tied with that score. And a huge
crowd
vault.
likes that one, absolutely.
Huge vault, just that shuffle of the feet. So one thing that the coaches are definitely going to work on in practice, especially as we get more into the postseason, they've really got to work on those stuck landings so they're not giving up 5/10s off their team total.
So Grantham, the 4th of 6 vaulters to go for the Wolfpack. And Evan Pakshong will be next for William and Mary. Pakshong out of Los Angeles, California, competes in 3 different events. The bars here, the beam, and then the floor exercise.
pretty solid on this event as well. Season and career high of a 9.8, which she's already hit 2 times so far. Really working on those hit handstands. Legs are glued together unless she's supposed to straddle at the bottom like that. And then just that large step on the landing. The bigger the step, the judges are able to take up to 2/10 on a large step, normally of about 3 feet.
Now, does it matter to most judges whether 1 foot or both move?
It actually does. So they're allowed to take a step and come to a complete stop, and then they can use their second foot to step together, or they can use the same foot to step back and then salute, and it counts as 1 step. If they're way off balance, it may count as 2 steps.
That was Alexa Phillips for North Carolina State on the vault. Got a good ovation from the crowd on her first go of the day. And then the final 2 on the uneven bars for William and Mary, a couple of their all-around gymnasts, as Katie Waldman steps up for her routine.
Katie, only a freshman, actually, out of Omaha, Nebraska. So extremely strong competitor, really come into this William and Mary team and made a huge impact so far.
Despite the step, looked like a pretty solid routine out of her.
Definitely. That landing is actually really difficult. It's called a blind landing because she actually is rotating forwards and you can't see the ground as you're coming to it. So it's really difficult to stick those landings. Every now and then a gymnast will come up with one, but definitely something pretty difficult.
Chelsea Knight now on to finish things at the vault for the Wolfpack.
And again, the Wolfpack's had some amazing vaults. They're really clean, they're really tight in the air, they have great amplitude, all things that the judges are looking for, just those hops and steps on the landings.
So that wraps it up for the Wolfpack. As you saw, Alexa Phillips' score come in at a 9.825. And it puts them overall at 48.9 before Knight's score comes in.
And again, that 49 kind of threshold is what they're looking for on each event. Last week a 49.15 on vault.
Caroline Capone will round off competition at the uneven bars for William and Mary. Begins on the high bar. 1 change already.
Really young team for the Tribe on the uneven bars. Another sophomore, so we've seen a handful of sophomores and a freshman.
Well, and you mentioned they're 3 all-around competitors. Capone and White, both sophomores. And then Katie Waldman, who went on the uneven bars prior to Capone, just a freshman. And 1 exhibition for the Wolfpack on the vault. It'll be Katie Cox. She will exhibition, I think we understand she'll exhibition at all 4 events today.
Definitely, just a Yurchenko layout, so total score on that, the maximum she could get would be a 9.8. With those steps on the landing, definitely going to be closer to like the 9.6 range, but that's the nice thing about the exhibition spot is she can come out here, compete, because they're going to be losing Knight and Grantham at some point ahead of her, they're going to train her to be one of those all-arounders.
And William and Mary with an exhibitionist here as well on the bars. And I think this will be Mary Grace Gordon, who was initially in the lineup, but replaced by Monica Ulett, who was initially supposed to be the exhibitioner.
Yeah, we didn't get an update on the exhibition. It looks like NC State just a hair short of that 49 mark on the vault. It's those landings that they had. Nobody stuck their landing today, and it really shows overall.
So they finish at a 48.975 on the vault. See the 9.675 come in for Capone of William and Mary, which puts their overall mark at a 48.25. on the bars. So the Wolfpack and the Tribe will switch places. It'll be NC State on the bars, William and Mary with the vault next, as it's a 48-975, the final total on the vault, 48-25 on the bars for William and Mary. We'll be back when they flip-flop on the other side here on ESPN3. Welcome back. Round 2 between William and Mary and NC State. This is college gymnastics on ESPN3. So now the Wolfpack over on the uneven bars. William and Mary takes its turn at the vault. As for William and Mary, the competitor who's an all-around for them, Caroline Capone, who finished on the uneven bars, gets things started for them with the vault. So she'll be the leadoff per se. And here are the scores from NC State's vault ventures, that 48-975. Not quite the total you said they would be looking for in that scenario, Rachel.
Yeah, all of the scores are just a fraction lower than they were last week, and that's the landings. Last week they were really hitting their landings. You didn't see as many steps back, just some small shuffles of the feet here and there. So if you add a half tenth to a full tenth on most of those, that's exactly where they were last week, and I know that's where they want to get back to. Drew Grantham is, I think she actually got about the same score, 9.8, 9.875 maybe last week, but Chelsea Knight a full tenth lower than where she was last week.
So it'll be Nicole Wild getting things started for the Wolfpack in the vault. She'll be followed by Drew Grantham, Maggie Tamburo, Caitlin Fillard, Lauren Kent, and Chelsea Knight.
Tamburo, a bar specialist, so it's the only time that we will actually see her for the Wolfpack.
And these are the final scores you see on your screen. William and Mary's bar routines. They tried to mix it up a little bit, you could tell. Some very unconventional routines, and not too bad, the 48-250.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good for William and Mary. So again, they get to drop Taylor White's score of the 9.45, and then everything else is close to that 9.6, 9.7 range, which is pretty average for the Tribe. They're normally scoring in that 193 range. I think all of their scores this year have been in the 193s except for their home opener. So yeah, they're right where we would expect them to be.
So rotation 2, almost ready to start here at Reynolds Coliseum. And a couple of spots from the first rotation. William and Mary on the uneven bars, impressive routines. Seemed like everyone was struggling with that landing, even over on the vault, as you mentioned, with North Carolina State.
It's all the landings. Each landing is a half tenth to a full tenth. If it's a really big step, even 2 tenths. So when you've got 5 counting scores, those can really add up and make a huge difference in your overall team total. And right now, both of these teams are looking to add and improve their regional qualifying score.
Rotation 2 getting ready to start. And Rachel, you mentioned the regional qualifying score. It's a compilation of 6 scores for each team, and exactly how does that work as these teams ramp up into the final stretch, really, of their season, where they're trying to bump that score up with every meet.
Yeah, so the regional qualifying score in gymnastics, everything's a little bit crazy because it's all about the score. So 3 scores have to be from away meets. The other 3 scores can be home or away. So after a team has at least 6 meets total, 3 away scores, they could technically have a regional qualifying score, but most of the time you want those extra 3 from home because they're a little bit better. Right now, NC State is counting a 195.925, a 195.825, and then a 194.6. So what they're really trying to do is get a good home score. They've only got 2 so far, which have been great, 196s. They need a third one like that, and then their next week on the road, they need to be able to get another high 195 or a 196 and throw that 194 away.
So now the Tribe with their first vaulter almost set, Caroline Capone, to get things started in this Sweetheart Meet. It's an annual event here at Reynolds Coliseum.
And she actually has not competed on vault this season. So her career high on the event, a 9.75. The vault she just competed, only worth a 9.8. And again, you saw the shuffle of the legs on the landing, but definitely something that she's stepping into here today.
Nicole Wild first up for North Carolina State on the uneven bars. Wild, the senior from Waxhaw, North Carolina.
And Nicole, I love her body line on bars. As you watch the routine, she's just perfectly straight, perfectly tight the whole way until that little teeny tiny hop on the landing. She's just a beautiful gymnast to watch on the uneven bars.
Good start for the Wolfpack on the bars as we move to Madison Dwyer for William and Mary in the vault.
Dwyer, a junior out of Shoreham, New York. She actually does vault and balance beam. So we will see her now, and then we'll see her again on the very last rotation.
Well, she had a lot of momentum going into it. Maybe a little bit too much as the step forward will surely deduct some points from her score.
Definitely, and William and Mary, again, they've got some very unique vaults. Not all of them do a Yurchenko layout with a twist here and there. I think there's actually one girl that does a half twist. But yeah, she just had on her hand front, she just had a little bit too much momentum, could have opened up a little bit earlier, maybe saved a step on the landing.
That brings up Drew Grantham on the bars for North Carolina State.
Tied her career high here last week at 9.775. And there you can see, just came out of the dismount a little bit too soon, was really going for that stick. But when you open up just a fraction too soon, you start to under-rotate, which made her take that step forward.
Steadied the landing with just one leg instead of coming forward with both.
Erica Marr up next for the Tribe on vault.
We saw her, she was second in line on the uneven bars. Will compete in a few different categories. We'll see her at the balance beam a little bit later.
So she's one of the few. Layout Yurchenko with a half twist, just that step on the landing. Again, none of these vault, I think that William and Mary actually has one vault that's worth a 10.0. That one's worth a 9.95. So it'll definitely come in below that just due to the execution.
All right, well, that brings us to the specialist Tamburo. It's a quick coaching before beginning on the high bar.
And 3 NC State girls ended up at a 9.85 last week. Tamburo Knight and then Lauren Kent, who we'll see here in just a minute. If you're going to be an event specialist, they expect big scores out of you.
Tamburo typically delivers, and so far so good here.
And again, just those steps on the landing, which is interesting. I watched them warm up, and a lot of them were hitting those landings. So I'm not sure what that is, if they're just a little bit off, if it's nerves. Can't imagine it's nerves because it's their third home meet. But you never know what may be kind of triggering that.
Katie Weber now on the vault for William and Mary. It's a little bunny hop forward with their momentum on the landing there.
Those blind landings, again, are really difficult just because you're relying completely on air awareness. You just have to know exactly how high you are, how much distance you have, where you're at as your feet hit the ground. So the blind landings are a little bit difficult.
Back to the Wolfpack, and it will be Caitlin Fillard Saw a 9.725 come in. I believe that is the update for Tamburo's score.
Caitlin on event 2 of 4 today. There's the stick that everybody is waiting for. So, now they do say sticks are contagious. So we'll see if the next few girls can also stick that landing, but you can tell just how excited her teammates are.
Well,
they really needed that one.
And it might reflect between both teams because it felt like through an event and a half already, neither William and Mary nor NC State had stuck much of anything.
Nobody had. And there again, one of those very unique vaults. That one's actually worth a 10.0. So she did a round off onto the springboard, a back handspring with a full twist in it, and then still had enough height to be able to block off and do a piked flip afterwards. Just a small step on that landing. So really good vault. It's hard to get a lot of height on that one just because of how you're coming in.
And just a slight step backward on the land, but Katie Waldman was that impressive routine at the vault for William and Mary. It brings us to Lauren Kent, the 5th of 6 competitors on the bars for North Carolina State.
Kent, one of the 3-way ties for that 9.85 last week. Her 2 release moves there right in a row.
Not perfect, but a better landing, so maybe it's catching on.
Definitely, and the judges would actually rather see them step backwards or hop backwards than forwards. If they're stepping forwards, it means they under-rotated, which means they didn't have enough height, they didn't have enough energy. So there's more deductions that can come in when they step forwards versus backwards.
And now Taylor White, one of those all-around gymnasts for William and Mary to close things out on the vault. Springs very high, but an awkward landing.
Yeah, just didn't have enough rotation. Like you said, it actually went really high in the air. Just the rotation was a little bit slow, not enough to get around, and ended up sitting down on that one. But again, only 5 scores count, so they're still in a good spot.
So White rounds things out for William and Mary. Here's Chelsea Knight to finish off the uneven bars as far as the Wolfpack is concerned.
And again, with Chelsea, you can just see her legs are glued together the entire time. They are allowed to do straddles on their giants, on their casting.
Oh, overshot on the.
And I spoke way too soon.
Back there way too soon. Up until that point, a very tight routine.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And for Chelsea to fall on that Takacha, very uncharacteristic.
So she'll regain herself and get a boost. Begin again on the uneven bar.
She's just got the dismount here, so she'll wrap up strong. Again, it's not going to hurt the overall, great stuff landing there. It won't hurt the overall NC State team score. It could be, normally with Chelsea, she normally does boost it a couple of tenths, but she can be the drop score today. It will hurt her overall all-around score.
So mishaps with both of the anchors for these teams as an exhibition on the way in the vault. For William and Mary, it'll be Sophie Harris. Sophie, a junior out of Minnetonka, Minnesota.
And a nice layout, Yurchenko's pretty good stuck landing. I would at least consider that a stick. Unfortunately, the vault's not worth a 10.0.
Yeah.
So the most she can get on that one, I believe, is about a 9.8.
A good showing in her exhibition spot. And then, as we stated before, Katie Cox is going to compete as an exhibitioner in all 4 events for the Wolfpack today. So here's Katie's shot at the uneven bars. And then you see Chelsea Knight's final score coming in at 9.275. That won't count toward their overall, which stays at 9.765.
And Katie, again, they're definitely just grooming her, especially with Chelsea being a senior. They're going to lose those 4 routines next year. Katie has a huge dismount at the end of that routine, that full twisting double layout. She is able to stick that, took a little step today, but she's really going to come into play definitely next year. And then they've got Caitlin Fillard right behind that, a junior. Drew still got a couple years. She's only a sophomore.
And Katie there, just a freshman, so a lot of grooming to be done, but certainly one to look forward to as you watch North Carolina State gymnastics in the future.
Definitely. I can only imagine she'll be in the lineup next year, probably on all 4 events.
So no change through both the 6th and exhibition there for North Carolina State. A 48.675 on the bars as William and Mary comes in at an even 48 with the vault routine. And we'll move on to the balance beam and the floor exercise. On the other side, this is college gymnastics here at Reynolds Coliseum on ESPN3. Cool. Back with you here on ESPN3. Darren Vaught, Rachel Garland at Reynolds Coliseum for college gymnastics. William and Mary and NC State through 2 events so far with both the vaults and uneven bars. And this was NC State's go on the bars, as well as William and Mary in that last rotation being on the vault. And one really, really good stuck landing so far. On the uneven bars, it was right there with North Carolina State. But otherwise, it's been a little bit contagious. Just a slight step backward or a step forward on the landing. Some awkward finishes on dismounts with otherwise very tightly executed routines.
Yeah, the steps have really been a killer for both teams. You can see the overall team total for NC State, a 48.675. Comparatively, last week they had a 49.15. So 5 tenths. And what really makes that difference is 5 steps on the landing.
So you see the scores there for North Carolina State. And then William and Mary on the vault fared pretty well. Both anchors for each team in those particular events stumbled a little bit. So you see Taylor White's score suffered a bit, but otherwise pretty solid throughout for William and Mary on the vault as well.
Yeah, and William and Mary, again, a little bit below where they're used to being. Last week, a 48.425. Their last time at NC State just a few weeks ago, a 48.6. So 4 to 6 tenths down, 4 to 6 tenths off on the landing.
A 48 even on the event for William and Mary, which will now be at the floor exercise as North Carolina State makes their way over to the balance beam. And on the beam, Alexis Buechler will get things started for NC State. And then Taylor White with the first floor exercise routine for William and Mary. White, one of their 3 all-around competitors. And you will see Drew Grantham and Caitlin Fillard come in at number 2 and number 3 on the balance beam. So they're all-around competitors as well. Chelsea Knight, we've mentioned several times, the anchor in every event.
Yeah, and normally the way some of these lineups work is you put your strongest, most consistent gymnast up first. So they may not be the big scorer, but they're really going to set the pace for the rest of the team. If the first person up falls, mentally it's just draining on the rest of the girls. So you put somebody that you believe is always going to hit that routine up, and then from there the score should really build. So if they average a 9.7, 9.8, all the other 5 scores should go up from there. So Chelsea in that anchor spot, you always expect at least a 9.8, if not a 9.9 out of her.
And now we see Buechler get started on the balance beam for the Wolfpack. with a 97.650 overall through 2 events. There's the first flip for Buechler. Really nice landing.
And NC State's beam team last week, phenomenal job. A season high of a 49.3. Buechler tied with Grantham and Villard, who we'll actually see in the next 2 spots, all with 9.825s.
It was pretty incredible that they stuck so closely with a ranked Michigan team in front of what was a massive crowd here at Reynolds Coliseum. Between the 4 fan bases.
Very few empty seats. And Reynolds holds now, what, 5,000 people or so?
Correct.
So it had to have been at least 4, I would think.
I would imagine so. And I was surprised being in Raleigh how many fans for Michigan and Brown and everyone else that showed up. But there was a lot of North Carolina State contingent as well, as you would expect.
And there's still a pretty good fan base here, especially for only 2 teams. Still a lot of energy in the crowd today.
Buechler wraps up her routine. A better landing than what we've seen on some of the other dismounts. So maybe it's starting to catch on between both they and the Tribe. And now Taylor White into the floor exercise for William and Mary. Sounds like doing her routine to Crazy Train, which is an interesting choice.
Taylor, again, only a sophomore, so she's still got a lot of time. I know that the vault was just kind of one of those odd flukes, but they still expect her to come back and perform on the next 2 events to really help the Tribe out. It's always fun to kind of listen to and hear what songs some of these gymnasts pick for their floor music.
No doubt about it. My favorite thing, and Rachel, you and I were talking about it before we went to air, watching North Carolina State warm up with their floor exercises. As soon as one gymnast song comes on, the rest of the team has it memorized so well that they start doing the routine.
Yeah, a lot of
wherever they're standing, they'll do the arm motions or whatever's involved at the beginning of the routine.
A lot of the teams do that. It's. You can't see it from here just due to the camera angle, but even the Tribe's teammates at the very end doing the same arm movements. And
very much invested, as you can see, with the high fives all around. But they're practically doing the routine with Taylor White, and it's so fun to see.
You see these routines as being on the team and being in the practice gym. You see these routines time and time and time again that you eventually just know them.
So now Drew Grantham on the balance beam for North Carolina State. Tied with Buechler and Villard, as you mentioned last week. That very impressive score of, what, a 9.85?
Yeah, somewhere right around there. A beautiful acro series, just perfectly straight legs. I mean, a small, if you want to be really nitpicky, a wobble of the shoulders at the very end, but I don't know that they're going to take any deduction on that. So far, so good. Seems pretty confident. No major wobbles, execution errors, anything along those lines.
And she's a gymnast too, Rachel. A lot of them fit this description, but she just has so much personality when she competes. You see,
definitely,
when she completes a movement, a little smirk as she moves on to the next part of her routine, and of course, gleaming there with a great landing.
I think that was finally I stuck it. I didn't on vault, I didn't on bars, but finally I got that stuck landing.
And now on the floor exercise, this will be Elizabeth Snoddy for William and Mary, who we have not seen yet in competition. This is her lone event.
Her lone event. She will exhibition on balance beam. But Snoddy normally a pretty strong competitor on floor, season high and career high 9.75. So again, right up there with where the Tribe would want him to be. Nice 2 salto pass, so that's one thing that's required out of every gymnast that competes on floor. They have to do 1 tumbling pass with at least 2 flips in it. If not, it actually lowers their start value by half a point.
And there you go, Drew Grantham, a 9.875 in that last balance beam exercise. So really, really good score from her.
Fantastic. If that's not her career high, that's probably pretty close. And a huge final tumbling pass out of Snoddy. That was a great routine.
And a very large, that large leap at the end. Is there a strategy to that in a lot of ways it can kind of mask an awkward landing?
There really is. So if it's an athlete that just has a lot of power, a lot of energy, sometimes by throwing that jump in there, when they come down, they can control the landing on a jump more so than if she would have tried to control the landing out of the tumbling pass and maybe had to take a step. On floor, you are allowed to take 1 step, but it has to be controlled, and so that's up to the judge's discretion. Whereas if you throw in a jump, then it becomes pretty clear.
There's also running the risk of moving a foot out of bounds, as you saw the black boundaries there as well.
Definitely. Fillard over on balance beam for the Wolfpack. You saw just that wobble there out of her acro series. Still able to hold on, which is great. So they may take a 10th, maybe a 10th and a half, but way better than a 5/10 fall.
Low center of gravity on that flip as well. That's very impressive.
And that full turn, I know we talked about that at the very beginning of the, actually I think before we went on air.
It was before we came on the air, I was asking about the full turn, the 360.
Every gymnast, it's required in their balance beam routine that they have to have a full turn, and it's been that way since most of these gymnasts were probably 6 years old.
And you talked as if this is a point of contention. So as a former competitor yourself, it kind of bothers you.
It's awful because the thing is it's the easiest skill in their beam routine, but a lot of times you're just like, oh, it's my full turn, and you'd be surprised how many girls wobble on it or even fall on their full turn. It's awful. It's like the nemesis. Just everybody hates it. But it's not going anywhere.
Most sports have those things.
They'll never take it out. I don't see them ever getting rid of it.
Well, this is Sophie Harris on the floor exercise. We saw her as an exhibition competitor on the vault earlier, but this is her first for score.
Very clean double pike there. You could see the smile when she landed on that one. Great landing.
And there you see that was a perfect example of her teammates getting into the routine, several of them doing the arm motions.
And I think it's every team in college gymnastics, unless the coaches have told them specifically not to do that in competition. I'm pretty sure most teams that I've seen compete do that.
A 9.675 on the beam routine for Caitlin Fillard.
And that's all due to that wobble on her acro series. They probably ended up taking a couple attempts on that.
I'd say a very dynamic routine out of Sophie Harris.
I thought that was fantastic. A career high of a 9.7. I would think it'd be fairly close to that. I didn't see any major mistakes, so just a couple of tenths here and there.
She receives congratulations from her teammates. And we move to the balance beam where it's North Carolina State's Lauren Kent.
Her second event today, so bar and beam specialist. See, there's that wobble on the full turn. I'm telling you, it's awful. I hated it.
All of these gymnasts, you know, they flip and do the more impressive things with their routines. I see what you mean, how it could be a little bit of a nuisance. You're like, oh, I have to do this again.
It really is. It's like it's the pesky full turn. And some of them they'll do a 1.5 turn. Some will even do a double turn. I'm like, why are you crazy? Just do the full turn and get it over with. Because gymnasts compete against level 10 rules, and so I think the full turn comes into play around level 5. So most of these gymnasts have been doing it probably since they can remember competing.
I think you used 6 years old as a good starting point
Around
earlier
there,
when we
6,
talked
7,
about it off air.
Somewhere around there. So from 6 years old till they're 18
So
to 22.
I would imagine one of the more basic things that you learn in coming up as a gymnast.
Definitely.
Now, how about that landing? A little wider of a base, but she stuck it.
Yeah, that's okay. As long as it's a stuck landing and as long as it's normally about shoulder width apart, the judges are totally fine with it. If they can kind of slide their heels together, the judges are good with it. It's when they get to be like a 2 foot apart that they may take a little bit on.
So nice work from Lauren Kent on the beam, and we move to Caroline Capone in the floor exercise. She'll actually lead off on the balance beam to finish things out for William & Mary a bit later.
And a great double back for her opening pass. The judges are really looking for just making sure that their chest is up on the landing so that they had enough height, enough rotation, and that looked great.
Good recovery on a less than desirable landing there, but she
just a little bit off, but not bad. You can see she's really having some fun with it with the facial expressions.
And a 9.675 for Lauren Kent on the balance beam, so comes in right around where Caitlin Fillard did because of those stumbles along the way.
See the WM right before this final pass.
And saves her 2 flip pass until the very end there.
And there's no specific spot you have to put it in the routine. It just, most of the girls do 3 tumbling passes. It just has to be one of the 3.
Is that the more common placement, would you say? To round out the routine, kind of build up to it, and then
just
that's
not
the biggest,
normally
most
the first
dynamic
pass.
movement? Yeah.
Yeah, not normally the first pass. When I competed, mine was my middle pass. But I would say second or third is the most common. Normally the opening pass is going to be your hardest, most difficult pass for the gymnast.
So now Nicole Wild on the beam for North Carolina State.
I just can't hold on there. So you saw the last couple of girls wobble on their acro series. Nicole just a little bit off. But that really puts the pressure on the rest of the lineup, which is Chelsea. And Chelsea, again, unfortunately fell as the anchor on the uneven bar. So we'll knock on wood and hope that doesn't happen.
And as strong of a competitor as she is, you would imagine it would take a pretty bad day for her to stumble on both. But. Now this, as a gymnast, you much like the 360 turn, as an event, the balance beam is sort of the dreaded event amongst most gymnasts, right? Amongst
most. What's really interesting is if you talk to the girls that are in the beam lineup, normally they love beam. So I think it's just one of those, if you're kind of one of those people that you can calm yourself down on beam and you really just get it, then you're in the beam team.
So, of course, if you're a coach, as you have been, you find a girl who loves the beam.
Loves beam.
And
can stay
you can work on it. You can work on it
yep.
As long as she's passionate about it. This is Katie Waldman in the floor exercise now for William & Mary, one of their 3 all-around competitors.
Again, the WM. So William and Mary all has the WM symbol in their floor routines. NC State will have the Wolfpack sign.
The Tribe, a lot of personality. That's why, this is sort of the main attraction for
Definitely.
viewers of gymnastics. So they're putting on a show, trying to for everyone here in Raleigh.
And they've had a lot of variety in their floor music, which has been kind of nice. Sometimes teams stick with, they're all current songs on the radio, and I mean it's fun to hear, but it gets a little repetitive. Yeah, they've been great at their facial expressions. I've enjoyed them.
You see the final update for Nicole Wild and a 9.25 on the beam, so that assumedly will be the one they scrap as long as Chelsea Knight
Yeah,
doesn't
definitely.
have any major issues.
And Wild last week a 9.875, so you can see just how much that fall really impacts the score. So again, just a small wobble there, able to hold on, which I'll take any day.
Yeah, just a slight imbalance as opposed to losing your footing entirely.
Yes.
Certainly favorable.
Unfortunately, with Knight's career high last week of a 9.95, absolutely
she was
amazing.
Incredible on the balance beam.
This routine already not going to get that. So, and there a full turn with her leg behind her, so a little bit different. No wobble.
She embraced the full turn. it seemed like to me. That's a
Maybe
little
that's
more
the
of
trick,
an ambitious full turn.
That's
you
the
don't
trick.
just get it out of the way. You incorporate it into a larger movement.
Definitely.
Maybe.
And again, just kind of something's just off, a little bit off today for the girls. Knight's score last week, 4th highest in NC State history. So there's been 2 girls in NC State's team that have scored a 10. And then there's been a handful that have scored a 9.95 on balance beam.
Knight with a great, very complex dismount off the beam there and stuck the landing well. So other than the slight imbalance, should be a very good score.
It'll still be pretty strong, probably around a 9.7 or so, 9.75. This is Aaliyah Carr. The first we'll see her today, and then we'll also see her on balance beam.
Very high trajectory on her first movement there.
She is a powerful gymnast. She gets a lot of height on these tumbling passes. And her jumps, clearly. I mean, it's so hard to tell on the TV, but when they're right in front of us, you can really
no doubt
see.
about it. It becomes a lot more obvious with the stronger.
You can see just how high they jump when they're jumping, 6, 8 feet in the air. It's hard to watch floor on the monitor when we're
it's right
in front
it's
of
right
us.
here. All the other events, for the most part, we have a monitor that can give us a second perspective. But this one, it's so easy to just get sucked in. And
it really is. I try to look at the monitor so I know what the viewers are saying and I have the same perspective.
Now, I did notice Kerr chose her second pass to do the 2 flips.
Just because she has that huge double back at the end. This girl can fly.
Which seems like the obvious finisher.
Yes.
Well, a great routine from Aaliyah Kerr. That's the final on the floor exercises for William and Mary.
Kerr's season high at 9.875. I believe her career high is a 9.9. So, and that routine was great. I would think it'd be pretty close to that.
And then Katie Cox exhibitioning on the balance beam for North Carolina State. Cox, we mentioned earlier, a freshman with a lot of promise for the Wolfpack.
And Cox, I know we've mentioned before, she actually graduated high school in December. So she's only been a college freshman for 2 months. Most of these, if you're a freshman, you start in August normally, and you get, 5 months under your belt. Nope, she's two months in.
most people her age maybe getting ready for prom, graduation,
Yep.
things of the like. No, she's exhibitioning at NCAA gymnastics meets.
Yep. Yeah, they're going to their high school basketball games on a Friday night. She's competing across the U.S.
And at the top of your screen, that was just a tremendous shot of her teammates. Watching in anticipation. It's just an exhibition, but they're so invested. It means the world to them that each other do very well.
Well, they know they're going to have to count on her at some point, so definitely get into it. So this is Evan Pakshong for our exhibition for the Tribe.
And we saw her on the uneven bars, I believe, a bit earlier. We did.
Yep.
She was the 4th in that rotation.
Yep, and we'll see her again. She's a 3-event specialist. So a little bit off on that 2.5. So again, those blind landings are a little difficult, especially when you're twisting. Sometimes you land and your body wants to keep twisting. So you can see she took that step kind of across the diagonal. Again, some very interesting music, but she's performing quite well.
Pakshong, just a sophomore. We've talked about it a couple of times throughout the broadcast. A very young team for William and Mary. She's a sophomore competing for score in 3 events, exhibitioning in a 4th. And then a couple of sophomores as well as a freshman as all-around competitors.
Yeah, which really, I think it could say a lot for where William and Mary will be over the next couple of years, especially the freshmen and sophomores. They're still trying to kind of gain their footing, get comfortable. By the time you're a senior, this is second nature to you, especially these collegiate meets. And so there's a lot of promise to this team to even go up in score another 2-3 tenths.
Well, pretty usual competitors with North Carolina State. It's sort of a regional matchup for them, so they like to come here, and North Carolina State likes to go there as well. And we'll see in this 3rd rotation how the scoring rounds out.
And one more.
And then just one more.
One
it's
more.
Flown by. North Carolina State on the balance beam, a 48.8. So you talk about a 49 kind of being the standard for most of these events. You see the Wolfpack just a hair below for that. Meanwhile, William and Mary, that's not necessarily the same standard that they carry on a week-to-week basis, and they're pretty close right behind NC State in most of these categories.
Yeah, William and Mary normally averages about a low to mid 48, and that's exactly where they've been. So last week's scores on vault, they had a 48.425. On bars, they had a 48.5, and on floor, they had a 48.3. So they actually beat their floor score from last week. So they're right on track to where they want to be. NC State had 49s across the board, except on floor last week, and it was a 48.975, so 0.025 below. But you can tell all of their scores so far are just a little bit off.
Just a bit uncharacteristic. And this their 3rd home meet of the season, 2 left, and then they're on the road for the most part until hosting the NCAA regionals here in April. So a couple more opportunities to get a 3rd home score for that RQS. And we'll switch things off, and it will be NC State, the Wolfpack, finishing it out on the floor exercise, and William and Mary on the balance beams on the other side, 146.45 to 144.8. North Carolina State with a slight edge headed into the rotation 4. It's college gymnastics on ESPN3. Back with you at Reynolds Coliseum. College gymnastics on ESPN3. North Carolina State hosting William and Mary. Darren Vaught and Rachel Garland with you here in Raleigh. And just one rotation left, Rachel. North Carolina State's been a little uncharacteristically low scoring, just a hair below what they normally would shoot for. You see them on the balance beam here. And William and Mary finished the floor exercise for rotation number 3.
Yeah, NC State something just seems a little bit off. They're not having a bad meet by any means. They're still in that upper 48 range, but the goal for them is always a 49. Every event they really want to hit that 49 mark, and they just haven't been able to do it today. Whether it's wobbles, steps on the landing, just something is a little bit off. William and Mary, though, exactly where they should be. They're performing exactly as they have been. Trying to increase it a little bit each week. They've had a couple of minor errors, but William and Mary has looked pretty even, just like they have the last several meets.
You see the final beam score for Chelsea Knight came in at a 9.8. That was second to just Drew Grantham's really, really impressive 9.875 toward the beginning of the rotation. And otherwise, just again, like you mentioned, just seems to be a hair off of what most of these gymnasts should be scoring.
Yeah, Caitlin and Lauren last week 9.875, so there's an extra 0.2 on each of those, 4 overall, and then Chelsea Knight at 9.95, another 1/10.5. So there's 5.5 tenths right there that I can think of just off the top of my head, which would really improve that beam score. Again, they had a 49.3 last week, which is huge for NC State.
And some imbalance issues on the beam for North Carolina State. Some slight wobbles. It'll be interesting to see if William and Mary has the same issues as the Tribe on the floor exercise routine. I thought a very strong showing from top to bottom, in particular Aaliyah Kerr. You see her scored a 9.825.
Yeah, William and Mary did absolutely phenomenal. So last week a 48.3. The last time here at NC State they had a 48.425, and today a 48.55. So they've just gotten better on floor. They have had a couple events, kind of average for them, but floor was fantastic.
So we'll see how they fare with the balance beam, the dreaded balance beam in a lot of gymnast size. As Caroline Capone will lead off there. So an all-around gymnast at the start and finishing on the balance beam. It'll be Taylor White in that anchor role.
Again, you always want somebody solid to start off, especially on beam. So Caroline normally in that 9.65, 9.7 range, which is fantastic. If she can get that and then everyone can stay there or go a little bit higher, that's exactly what the Tribe is looking for.
Capone getting her full turn out of the way just prior to the dismount.
And again, just that step on the landing. Both teams today, just nobody's really been able to stick. We had the one on bars out of NC State, and then Drew Grantham's on beam. Just nobody's been able to stick that landing.
Mackenzie Itkush to begin things on the floor exercise. Now up for North Carolina State.
And Itkush, she does vault and floor, so she's actually been sitting for about the last hour. And she had 4 minutes in her touch period to come in and get warmed up in order to do this floor routine.
Certainly what she's used to, though, now in the third home meet of the season. As that's the layout on the road, it might lay out a bit differently to where she's competing in consecutive events or something like that.
Yep, definitely. It's all going to depend on the format that the meet hosts. But so far that's been a beautiful routine. Great landings on both of her tumbling passes.
We talked about it while William and Mary was doing their floor exercise routines. The entire team doing this routine with their upper body anyways, along with Mackenzie. It's a lot of fun to see. So a solid start for North Carolina State.
Yeah, that was absolutely fantastic. So again, just minor deductions here and there, and when the judges are getting critical, they're taking a half tenth, and if they take 3 of those, then we're already down to a 9.85. So it really just depends on what they see and how much, are they taking a half tenth or a full tenth on some of these minor errors.
Katie Waldman, her 4th event of the day. Second in the lineup here on the balance beam.
And again, Waldman only a freshman, so 3 more years to go. When we were talking while we were off air about just the toll that it takes on your body.
Well, I asked you, we were watching some of the floor exercisers warm up, and they spring up into the air so high that landing has to eventually start deteriorating at a competitor's body. I asked you if it's typical for a competitor to have joint issues or knee issues following a career. And I think you described it well. You said just issues.
Just overall body.
Physical body issues.
Yeah, you wake up and you just ache at times. So, and that's, you'll see a lot of these gymnasts with their ankles taped, some of them with tape around their knees or braces around their knees. So it definitely takes a toll on your body.
Alexis Buechler now under the floor exercise for the Wolfpack.
Looks like just some music trouble they're trying to sort out.
Well, you heard the wolf howling, which is a sound effect you hear often here at Reynolds Coliseum, home of the North Carolina State Wolfpack.
Yeah, and no deduction for Buechler or anything. If anything, it's just more of a mind game. But yeah, she can come off the floor and just kind of regain her composure and then re-salute when both her and the judges are ready.
All right, so now the floor exercise underway. And 2 jumps there, standing in one place. Does that count toward her 2-jump pass?
She still has to have a leap of some sort.
Sure.
Yeah, in the routine. But it does give her some bonus points. So these routines actually only start from a 9.5. So when she does hard jumps like that in combination, it gives her a bonus 10.
You have a lot of room to tack on
Yep.
some extra points with creativity and
Definitely.
the artistry of it.
Yeah, in order to get to that 10.0 start value, you actually have to do a lot of those combinations. So there you saw the little wolf symbol, and they all have it in their routine. You just have to find it.
So we've seen Buechler in every event except for the uneven bars.
Just a huge double back right there at the end. You saw the cheers from her teammates. So great routine for Buechler.
Great ovation from the crowd as well as Buechler. Second on the floor exercise for NC State, and that brings us to Evan Pakshong at the balance beam. 3-event competitor, but of course we saw her exhibition on the floor as well.
Nice acro series here. That forward to backwards connection can be a little bit tricky just because it's hard not to wobble in between. But she did that easily.
Reversed her momentum very gracefully.
Yeah. No issue with her full turn.
No issue with the turn there. Perhaps because she put a little flair on it. She embraced it again. I think that I'm learning that I think is the secret. Go full bore into the full turn.
Yes. It's one of those things, it's not over till the fat lady sings. Don't give up on the full turn. As soon as you think you have it made or, it's in the bag, that's the thing that'll get you.
So very impressive. Packshong, maybe her best outing of the day in any routine.
Yeah, that was a great routine for her. Very, very little execution, no major wobbles.
And now Caitlin Fillard will finish her day at the floor exercise for NC State.
And outside of that wobble on her beam acro series, she's had a pretty good day.
So I hear this routine begin with a fairly recognizable song. And we talked a bit earlier about the teams participating as well. I have to ask, do you remember, are there specific songs that maybe you hear like in a grocery store and you associate them with teammates or a certain routine?
All the time. I would say at least once a day. And I don't know that that'll ever go away. Just because, I mean, for years you hear the same music over and over and over again that, yeah, you'll be listening to the radio and you're like, oh, that's so-and-so's routine. And
so do you ever subconsciously start moving your arms in certain ways?
Not as I used to, not as much anymore. By this point, I've forgotten a lot of the routines, but I still recognize the song. Now, if it was my floor music, I'd probably still be able to remember parts of it.
Right.
But my teammates, I don't know that I'd remember too much of theirs.
Fillard moving into her final pass. Been a good run so far.
And a great double back at the end. Again, judges really looking to make sure that they still have enough height and rotation. And you can see Coach Landris just super ecstatic about that routine.
I would imagine she'll come in with a pretty good score. As Aaliyah Kerr now, who was spectacular with her floor routine, takes her turn at the balance beam.
There you see Evans score a 9.825. So we thought it was a good routine, and the judges agreed. That acro series seems to be giving a few people problems today.
Many of the gymnasts problems.
Aaliyah, one of the juniors on the team, so one of the few upperclassmen that they have. Again, 2 events here this afternoon, just floor and beam.
A 9-8 even for Caitlin Fillard, the score coming in from her floor routine.
And a stuck landing.
A stuck landing.
That's 3.
From Aaliyah King.
3 for the day between both teams, which is not good.
So Kerr impressive again on the balance beam despite a couple of balance issues, particularly with the acro series, which has plagued many of the gymnasts today. And now Alexa Phillips onto the floor for North Carolina State, her twin sister Paris.
Always in the same corner. So there you see her at the very bottom of the screen. Phillips last week tied her season high of a 9.85 on this event. I have to imagine that'd be a lot of fun competing with your sister.
I would imagine. I would imagine.
So.
I don't know if we've gotten to this point yet, Rachel. I'm a twin, so I could sort of relate. We played sports together growing up, that sort of thing. So I would imagine that would be a pretty cool experience, especially at the collegiate level. It's something you're both passionate about.
Yeah, and last year both of them in the lineup for the majority of the season. So it was always fun to watch them on the floor. I was, curious if one could replicate the other. But when they are on floor and you see them back to back, their mannerisms are just so similar. And Paris, after the routine, will be the first one on the floor to congratulate her.
No doubt about it. As we've seen in previous meets this season, a strong finish for Alexa Phillips.
A lot of people go to the coach as the first one, or just whoever they see first. Always sister.
Very cool to see as we now move to Madison Dwyer of William and Mary. Rachel, I would expect Alexa's score to come in fairly high for her floor routine there as well. The Wolfpack has really done well there.
I thought that was fantastic. I would think it'd be a 9.8, maybe even a 9.85. It looks like they didn't give her credit for, oh no, a 9.9. That's where we're at, a 9.9.
Goodness.
New season and career high for Alexa Phillips.
Consecutive very strong weeks with the floor exercise. You see it on your screen, the even 9.9 for Alexa Phillips. Really, the floor exercise, a lot of redeeming qualities for NC State in that particular event today. Finishing strong.
And Dwyer heard that kind of small eruption out of the crowd, and she's still got to maintain her composure because she's midway through her beam routine.
No, that's a great point, as you might not be able to tell on the screen. I mean, the beam is 20 yards away from the floor where those routines are happening. So,
yeah, and it's the audience here. It's not like last week where if somebody got a 9.9, everybody erupted and it was extremely loud. Last week was just loud in general.
And you'll have that with a quad meet, 4 teams rather than 2.
Yeah, but this time there was a noticeable difference between when that score came out.
Well, Dwyer with a strong landing and dismount on the beam. I would expect that score to come in fairly high. No major issues leading up to that point.
Yeah, season high for her 9.725, career high 9.8. I would expect it to be in that same range.
And now on to Drew Grantham's floor routine. I would call this a crowd favorite of the floor routines,
this
right?
Definitely,
it typically gets a good rise.
Definitely is. Last week, just a little bit off, her and Knight both. They're normally in that mid 9.8 to upper 9.8 range, and both of them last week 9.675s. Drew last week, that first tumbling pass, she landed, it was just a little off, and I think that's where the judges took a couple of tenths. But again, they lost to Michigan by about 2 tenths, and so I think that had Chelsea and Drew performed the way they're capable of, it may have ended up as a tie. So far, this is a phenomenal routine for Grantham. Only a sophomore, and she actually is from right down the road in Durham, North Carolina. I don't think her smile can get much bigger.
It couldn't. An excellent finish to
that
her floor
fantastic.
exercise.
That was absolutely fantastic. Maybe we'll have another 9.9 coming.
I think it's certainly possible. She did extremely well there, and I think all of her teammates know it. Every last one of them meeting her at least halfway across the floor.
Yes. Taylor White on beam for the Tribe, just a little minor bobble out of her acro series.
White, one of 3 all-around gymnasts for William and Mary, rounding things off at the balance beam.
So this is only her 3rd time competing on beam this season. Both times she's ended up with a 9.575. So 2 up, 2 hits, and kind of a decent score. I think she's capable of doing more, but you see some of these little wobbles here and there, and over the course of about 10 to 12 skills, those really do add up.
William and Mary putting her at the anchor position. You certainly assume they think she can do more, as you see Drew Grantham's floor exercise score come in at a 9.85. So not quite a second consecutive 9.9 like we had thought was possible, but still a very, very good showing on the floor exercise by Drew Grantham.
And Taylor, a great finish too. Her beam routine, a nice stuck landing on that dismount. So I would actually like to see her get above a 9.575. I think that routine was a little bit better.
And Chelsea Knight will finish things off for the Wolfpack prior to exhibitions. North Carolina State will have 2 exhibitions on the floor routine, I believe. At least one with Katie Cox following
Definitely
Chelsea
one.
Knight.
I'm not sure if Melissa, it doesn't look like she's in her leotard. It looks like she's got her warm-up on, so she may not exhibition today. She warmed up though, so. And Grantham, that 9.85, had we had that last week.
That would have been possibly a win over a top 10 Michigan team.
We'll never know. Chelsea, just a huge tumbling pass, and you can see she was right inside that white line, did not step out of bounds. But I did see the judge looking at it, just, you know, a little head to make sure.
Just to make sure. I think Chelsea was pleased with it.
Yeah, Chelsea last week, it was just one of those weird things when something was just off and then the score came in at a 9.675. It's just so abnormal.
She was otherwise tremendous. As you saw, she was the Eagle Gymnast of the Week.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal on her other 3 events, especially with that career best on beam at a 9.95.
And there you go. Taylor got a little bit better there, the 9.675, her score that comes in for the balance beam. Knight's last pass.
And a great routine out of Knight.
Very good and a strong finish coming down on 2 feet.
I would say a 9.85, 9.9, somewhere right in that range with Alexa and Drew.
So this clearly the event of the day for the Wolfpack. That's where they've shown up strongest.
Now, if only they could have started here and then taken that to the other 3 events. So exhibition on beam for the Tribe. This is Elizabeth Snoddy, who again we saw on floor just a little bit earlier. Fantastic routine on the floor exercise.
It seems like that far left side of the beam is where everyone is losing a bit of balance. I mean, I'm sure it's coincidence as to where they're relative to where they're starting their routines, but it does seem like the same part of the balance beam where
it's like
people
there's
are
an air
trouble.
duct blowing on that.
Sure, there might be. I don't know. And there you go, a 9.875 for
right
Chelsea
in the middle
Knight.
there.
Very, very strong run from top to bottom for NC State in the floor exercise.
Oh, Snoddy just comes up, just couldn't quite hang on. A little bit too far over that edge, and you could see her toes trying to grab onto the beam. It didn't quite work. Other than that, a pretty good job for Snoddy. First time up on balance beam, especially in that exhibition spot.
Yeah, and she was great on the floor exercise. She's just a sophomore, so you would have to imagine William and Mary looks to cultivate her skills elsewhere other than the floor exercise and rely on her going forward. So now Katie Cox will be the exhibition on the floor exercise.
You can see Katie just a little bit more graceful. So Chelsea that we just saw moments ago, very big, very dynamic, super powerful. Katie's super powerful in her own way, but a little bit more graceful.
And putting together what has been a very solid routine thus far.
I think one of the key characteristics on floor is, does it keep you entertained? If you don't want to take your eyes off the routine, it's a pretty good routine. And I
so
think
for those watching, if Rachel and I get quiet long enough, it's probably pretty good because we're so engaged.
It's a good routine, and I think the judges, you know, as a judge myself, if I'm bored with a routine, I'm probably going to sit there and mark more things down because I need something to do.
Yeah.
So.
Well, a great finish for Cox as well. And a solid finish to the day. What's been a very, very fun evening.
Definitely,
of
and
gymnastics.
NC State's total at 195.725. Not official yet, but that's probably pretty close. It's not a bad score. They really want that 196, but they're less than 0.3 away. So not terrible by any means. It's just not where they've been at the last 2 home meets.
Well, and a couple of opportunities to improve upon that as it builds toward their RQS score. But no, overall, a pretty solid day, a fantastic finish on the floor exercise for North Carolina State.
And the Tribe, I believe, is right about where they should be. They went 193 even last week. Last time here against NC State, a 193.3. So I think they actually may be a little bit over that, maybe a 193.325 or something like that.
Well, a fun day here at the Sweetheart Meet, an annual tradition at North Carolina State to raise cancer awareness. Say goodbye to Mr. Wolf there and enjoy a North Carolina State victory. William & Mary was impressive as well. For Rachel Garland, I'm Darren Vaught saying so long and have a great evening on ESPN3.